Just like that.
And just like that,
We're live.
How about it?
just like they said in Sex and the City, just like that.
Yep, that's the go-to reference for
It is.
everyone.
That wasn't a Sex and the City
Everyone
reference.
here
That's
is
immediately where my
definitely
brain
paying
goes to when
attention.
I hear and just
So
like
it's
that.
funny.
I think it's a pretty famous line. I don't
No,
think
it's just that's because you helped me choose what my final thought's gonna be today because I had a few I was choosing from. Well, guess
All right.
what? It's set. You
it's
ready
always
to roll?
good to have them decide.
I know. All right. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. Bet Parks, Eliot, Shorr-Parks, James Seltzer with you. No, nothing happening. You know,
Calm few days.
always relaxed with the Eagles. You know,
So-
there's nothing, nothing interesting off the field, just the product on the field, and that's all we ever talk
I
about.
was just recording an episode of Clap Your Hands.
Everyone
available on
listen,
all
check it
Sixers
out.
podcasts.
Yes, Sixer season already
Yes.
over, which is
And
fun.
It was funny. I was saying in all seriousness when I said it, like, the good news is for the Sixers, they'll be able to fly under the radar because people are so mad with the Eagles. And at first, James Jackson, who I do the pod with sometimes, is like, what do you mean? I'm like, have you been paying attention to the Eagles? Like, the city is burning down. Like, they can't even speak without everybody. Like, yeah. So it's been a fun few days.
Oh, great time. All right. So
Which is funny because I actually, if we want to talk about the actual game at one point, I actually feel better about the game after rewatching it.
So I've heard you saying this. We'll get to let's do that, and then we'll get to the next thing.
Yeah. Where do we start?
Because we reacted to the game and the coaching and all that stuff. And we ripped
didn't
Nick
really
for
do
that.
the Nick stuff.
We didn't do the Nick stuff. I want to do the Nick stuff, but real quick because I have a real issue with what you're saying, not the content of what you're saying, but I have to push back. So say your thing.
Here, all right. To be fair, I also premised this on the morning show when I said it. Like, I was the one driving the bus.
Well, so this is my issue.
Yes.
You're Mr. Style Points guy.
I agree.
All you did was I have to see style points, and now you're like, well, actually,
no. I completely understand leaving that game not feeling good about the team. Like, I definitely understand that. But I also think, and I actually think I said this on the post-game pod, if you would have told me prior to the game.
Oh, I know.
Right?
And yes, the no turnovers.
No turnovers. AJ and Devontae both had long touchdowns.
I know.
Defense. So those things did happen. So while ultimately it was not a good enough performance, it was not the statement they needed. They have to play better. I don't leave that game feeling like they're definitely beating the Giants, right? But rewatching it without the emotion of going into it and the emotion of like being at the stadium and everything, I thought it was probably Jalen's best game of the year. Now, doesn't mean that's good enough for the rest of the season, but I thought Jalen was really, really smart with the football. He didn't put the ball in harm's way a single time. They were really good against the blitz. AJ looked awesome. Devontae was awesome. The defense, Cooper DeJean looked awesome, and they didn't allow a single touchdown. And I know the Browns suck, but that's what you do to teams that don't suck. So while you cannot,
I mean, Deshaun did go 12 for 12 at one point in the second half.
Didn't allow touchdowns.
Yeah, but they let them get close. That would have allowed points if they were trying for points. I mean, they left field goals and stuff like that. Like, it's not like they didn't.
Right, they didn't allow touchdowns.
I know, but you're playing against the worst offense in football.
And yeah,
like you shouldn't allow a touchdown.
Agreed.
Yeah,
and they held them to 9 points. I agree with that, right? And now look, the blocked field goal thing is really like the issue with this team is that bad teams let things like that happen, and bad teams let bad teams stay in games. But if you remove the special teams from it,
they barely beat the Browns.
No, they win 20-9.
But they barely beat the Browns. Like
I agree with you.
I can't do this. No, this is not okay. You can't go into this game saying I need to see style points. It's the all-time style points game.
Yes,
and then not see style points. And then come out and be like, yeah, well,
no.
You gotta keep it real, man.
I am
keeping
it real. I think this is actually the definition of keeping it real because I'm reacting to what I saw. Like my opinion prior to the game is not impacting my opinion now, right? Like, so I agree with the feeling frustrated about it. I agree with the fact they didn't make the statement for sure, 100%. They were not as good as I want them to look like, and that is concerning. I think we're still seeing a 500-ish team that might make the playoffs and might not. But I still think there were positive steps, and I'm not just that's the only point.
That's
I'm
fine.
making.
But again, I think that it shouldn't be the lead. The lead should be that they did not come through when we needed them to.
Which is why I led.
We expected a bigger game.
Yeah.
I think the no turnovers thing is good. I think that's pretty much all I take away. And look, Cooper DeJean looking good. Sure, I can't take anything away from the defensive performance because it was against Deshaun Watson. Like,
I mean, it's the Jonathan.
It's
Gannon
what I
debate.
need them to do. It's what I expected them to do. So, like,
exactly the
good.
Gannon thing.
Like the offense, sure, solid. It wasn't the worst game ever. We needed them to beat the crap out of the Browns, and they
didn't do it.
Yeah,
for sure.
End
That's why I understand. Again, that's why I thought they needed style points, and clearly I was right because they won the game.
No doubt.
And people are livid at this team and super disappointed. I'm just saying the whole point in rewatching the game and talking about the team is to talk about the actual game. And I do think that while it was not the step I wanted to see them take, it was not a step backwards. Like
Oh, yeah, I
they didn't
agree.
look worse coming out of the
No, I
bye.
think
They
they
looked
looked
better.
I think they looked
They looked better.
a little better, but I wouldn't say it looked much better. Again, we have to take into context the team they're playing, not just that they didn't do enough, but the fact that that offensive performance is coming against the Browns. And I know the Browns'
Well,
defense has been
that is
better,
noteworthy.
but the defensive performance is coming against the Browns. So the
Yes.
point is, like, yes, like they looked better, but they were playing the worst team in football. They were supposed to look way better against that team.
I agree
That's
with
the
that.
point.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right.
I just think considering the public reaction, I have more confidence that they'll beat the Giants than it sounds like most.
Look,
I'm not saying
think they're going to the playoffs.
Yeah,
Like,
I do too.
I've
Right.
only gone now. I still think they're 11 wins. Like, I haven't changed my prediction there, and I'm
Right.
teetering more towards 10 than 12, like I originally predicted. But like, I'm not jumping off. But at the same point, like, I don't like what we're seeing isn't good enough, and it has to be
For
better.
sure.
Yeah, like there's no way around.
I am curious too because I feel like this is one thing. Like I think you've changed my mind fundamentally on two things over the last how many years we've done this pod? Probably more.
Two
I can
more than I expected.
Yeah,
right.
but I mean the leader of men thing.
Yep.
For sure.
Mhm.
Right. But I mean, and this is probably reaction to the Phillies losing too. I just can't get worked up if they're not playing their best football right now. Like,
Oh yeah, I think that's fair. No, I
want to
that's
see
what I
it,
say,
and it'll make us feel better, and it'll help.
You're
but,
right.
Like,
They can play
it was
themselves
still a
into being a good
productive
time.
Sunday. They
So
won a game,
I
and
thought-
all the other teams in their division lost.
I agree. I thought the best point you made in the post-game pod that stuck with me is they have super talented players.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of pull it together by the end of the season, like, sure, they could beat anyone on any given day if they
have
pull
more
it
talent
together
than the Packers
than
probably
most
did last
teams
year.
do. Yeah.
Well, and
so,
this is my thing too that I've heard a lot of. And Joe DeCamera, who I love with all my heart, has been making this point a lot. Like the only one that came because of AJ. But like AJ's on the team.
Mhm.
So I understand the point, and he's correct. They are a team that is not clicking on all cylinders. You can sub guys in and out. They are a team that wins because their great players make great plays. But those great players are not going anywhere, barring injury. Right now, we've seen them miss time because of injury. But in the two games where they've had all their great players, they're 2-0 and averaging 27 points on offense. Still need to play better. All those things are true. But like
they scored 20 and 34. I mean, it's hard to say averaging 27. Like they had one good offensive game where they turned the ball over.
Work.
I'm
just
the
saying.
point is, you don't say a 2-game average when the points are 14 points a
But-
point.
but-
Just say they scored 34
I'm not
and they scored
picking-
20. Because 27, you're saying they average 27 is not like that's not showing what actually happened.
So where I would disagree, I get your point, but I'm not picking two random games. I'm picking the games where they had their guys.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But I just think you don't average 2 games. Like that's
Well,
silly.
but it's only two games they've had.
But
their
that's a
best
silly.
players.
I get it, but
Right.
it's 2 games. Like, just don't do it. It's silly. If they had scored 10 in one and 50 in the other, would you say they're averaging 30 whatever points a game? Of course not. It would sound ridiculous.
Well, but that's first of all, that's a far bigger.
But it's close enough. It's 14 points. A 20-point game and a 34-point game are completely different ends of the spectrum. 27 is not like either. 27 is a lot closer to 34
Right.
in the sense of what we want for averages than 20. Like,
all right, so let's say they're averaging whatever.
I don't think you just don't average 2
no,
games.
but the
They
point
scored 34 with all their players, and they scored 20 with all their
right.
players.
But the point I'm making is that if we want to talk about what this team can be, not what they are now, what they can be, when they have all their guys, they have been 2-0, and we can debate the impressiveness of either of those wins. I'm just saying that, like, and this is really where we're going to go with the next stuff. Like, I understand people being livid with this team right now. It's not as bad as people are making it out.
I don't disagree with that. I think that, again, I still think they'll make the playoffs. I think they can play themselves into it. But I do think that there are like, I do think we have to call it as we see it. They scored 20 points on Sunday. They didn't, with all their best players, they scored 20 points.
It was not a good enough performance on Sunday. I 100% agree with you.
And offensively, it wasn't a good enough performance. Even though it was Jalen's best performance and all that, it was not close to good enough. If this team is going to win with this offense, that wasn't good enough.
I agree.
I mean, the first quarter thing
I agree.
has to end. Like there are too many drives that stall out. Like they are not, for all this talent on offense, you got to put up more than 20 points against the Browns. You just have to.
I agree. I 100%.
Especially considering one of those was just a long pass that and you have Devontae and
whatever.
But like, it's not like they freaking,
they didn't dink and dunk down the field. They weren't consistent throughout the game. I agree with all that.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. All right, let's get to the Nick part of it, because we've talked about the coaching and a bad job having the team ready and all that. Let's get to it, because we didn't really talk too much about the antics at the game. Obviously, the press conference had not happened where he brought his kids out.
Well, it is funny. Like, remember at the end of the live, at the reaction pod, we were like wrapping it up, and I was like, oh, like apparently Nick said something to the fans, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that'll be.
You're like, oh, I wonder what that's like.
Little
Great.
did we know. Yeah.
Little we know. So why don't we start with the fan thing, and then we'll get to the whole press conference stuff, because I have not just the kids. There's also a couple answers in there that bother me.
Right.
Let's get
And he
to
was on the morning show.
yeah, and we'll get to that too. Let's start with the fan thing though. The stuff that we all saw, him jawing with the fan. He on the morning show today, he said, "I'm not going to make." They asked him, what did you say? And he's like, "Well, I'll keep that private." It's like there's 70,000 people in the building. Yeah. Whatever. What do you make up? Again, forget the press conference. We'll get to it. Forget explanations. Just that happened with Nick. Your thoughts.
Right. So I know that. Look, I am more pro Nick than other people, so I want to make something.
I think way more pro Nick.
Way more pro Nick.
Yeah.
I want to make something crystal clear. I cannot emphasize this enough. He should not have done what he did to the fans. Mm-hmm. No excuse. I don't care if he's showing emotion. I don't care if he like was doing it playfully. I don't care if like if he was yelling about running the ball. Like, I don't care what it was. You cannot in that instance turn to the fans and the visual of it
demonstrably yell something.
And also like whatever was said, the way it looked was basically being like, what now?
Like,
what are you saying now?
Been like, I love you, you're amazing. And it wouldn't for us, we see,
cannot do it. You cannot do that. So
I'm excited to see the butt here. I'm excited.
No, there's no butt.
Okay,
like, good. And this is the upsetting thing I think about it, right? Is that has made the first thing I just said, where I do think there were positives in that game.
Oh, it's gone.
Impossible to talk about, right? Like, people are so mad with this team that even just me being like, well, they weren't that bad is like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue with what Nick did. What Nick did was he just lit the fire that was already burning and like threw so much more gasoline on it. If Nick is like walks off the field and is, saying after the game, we have to be better. And like, then I think there's a world where we can look at that game.
I agree.
But the issue is Nick did this to himself.
100%.
And so all of the, like, he's a clown by Damian Woody, like all these people, like,
which by the way, I have never,
and I think it's strong, but
regardless, I don't ever remember a former player, anyone on a national show like that,
right,
coming at a coach that hard.
Nick has been
like he
shredded,
flat out called him a total clown.
Yes, but like Damian Woody probably has the most viral clip of it.
Yeah, but they're everywhere.
It's
everywhere. Mike Greenberg's doing it.
Everywhere.
Dan Orlovsky. Everybody is crushing this.
Everywhere. Here's the thing,
which says something.
Nick did it to himself.
Yeah,
like he did it to himself. Now
he was like defiant.
Right now, like there are elements to this that I think people miss nationally. But the issue is when you yell at the fans in a short clip, like you did it to yourself, man. Like there are certain elements of this I will defend. And I do think people are being unfair to Nick about certain things. But he did this to himself. He's not being treated unfairly because of that. People aren't like taking something he was saying to a player and blowing out of proportion. He walked from the sideline towards the thing and yelled at fans. At that point, you lose control of how that is reacted. Now, I also think like you look at the players around him, they're laughing, they're encouraging him. Like he did a bad job.
We'll get to the player part of it because I do think that's interesting.
You can't do it. And I will say, I don't think he will do it again.
No, actually, sorry. I don't know. I don't know if he can control himself. Yeah.
I misspoke. I think this is who Nick is.
I don't think he can control himself.
Yeah.
That's my problem. Like it was so stupid of him to do. And it's one of those things where I've not cared as much about the antics, these specific things as others. Like throughout this whole time, I've always been like, he's genuine. He is who he is. I get fired up. I can understand being fired up. Like, I didn't love like yelling at the Chiefs fans after, they beat in the Super Bowl like, a few months earlier. Like, rant that in. Like, what? Yeah, yelling at you. Like, I didn't love that, but like, at least like, all right, he's got fired, whatever. Like, my issue is, and I can't think of a better word to use for it, the stupidity of him in the situation he is in now, knowing that if he does that, it's going to be a freaking thing. And knowing that he should not do that, particularly after a barely beating the worst team in football at home. Like, it felt like he had just won by 50. It was like, yeah, you see that? Ha ha, I told you we're awesome. Like, it was so tone deaf. And my concern is it shows someone who doesn't understand the situation, who doesn't understand the way they're supposed to act in a highly professional role. You are the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. You say it all the time. You're one of the faces of a multi-billion-dollar organization.
Well,
and there is a level of decorum. And again, I am someone, I love emotion. We both wear it on our sleeves. Like, I'm never going to rip anyone for feeling and emoting. But like, it's your job, dude. Like, you're the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. You have to be able to control your emotions.
So, okay. So this is where maybe we diverge just a little bit. Is I 100% agree with what you are saying. 100%. Can't do it. I do think he is now being depicted, and he did this to himself, as if he was like an out of control animal on the side.
It doesn't matter. Control yourself.
I agree.
He yelled at fans. If you want to yell at refs, if you want to like get into it with players on the side, that's fine. You're all playing a football game. You're all part of a football game. Like, stop yelling at the fans. Stop taking what the fans are saying to you and letting it affect you, dude. You're the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
But so I agree with that. But like, we also have to acknowledge to an extent, like, so let's just put ourselves in that situation, right? We'd like to say how we would handle
it. I do too, but Elliot, I was about to curse Tucker. I didn't. You get crapped on.
Yeah, and it's hard.
I know it is, but that's my point. But have you ever lashed out? Have you ever done something even in the same hemisphere? Like, have you ever even tweeted back? Exactly, dude. And you're not the head coach of the Eagles, though, but this is serious.
Like,
no,
but like,
he's a 43-year-old man.
Right. But like, I don't think he is out of control, and I don't think he is unable to control.
Right.
He broke. He broke.
So that's my issue. If he is too stupid to be able to control himself in these situations, like, that's a problem. That's a problem. If he does, or if he doesn't have the ability to control himself. Either he's too stupid to understand that it's a big deal, which I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's either that, or he doesn't have the ability to control his emotions to the point that he can't yell at fans on the sidelines. Like, either it's one of those two things, and they're both bad.
Right. Okay. So Chuck from Mount Airy brought this point up on your show this morning. I thought it was a good one. Like, Nick has had popcorn thrown on him. He's had flowers thrown at him. The entire stadium is chanting to fire him, right? And this has been after the Saints game. He got shredded after the Saints game, right? He gets shredded after wins. So
deal with it.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
I like
deal with it.
He does, but for the most part,
he doesn't.
No,
again, do you see other? How many? This happens.
Did he run into the stands?
Did Doug Peterson do that when he was getting crushed?
Look, I agree.
Did Andy Reid? He spent a whole thing of a whole season saying fire Andy Reid. Did he freak out at anyone? Did he do anything other than go about his business?
I agree. He snapped.
I just think that
this is,
but there's no defending it. There's no defending.
I'm not defending.
Okay,
he shouldn't have done it. But what I am defending him on is I don't think it's true. He can't control his emotions. But that's the point I'm making.
So then he's too dumb to understand that it's a problem.
No,
so
I'm saying it was a mistake. I'm saying, like, to your point, right? We use me or you. Me, like, you, obviously, everyone that's in a
mistake has happened before.
But it's not happened before.
What happened 5 times last year? But he yelled at the Colts fans. He yelled at Chiefs fans.
That's not yelling at Eagles fans. That's the difference.
Stop yelling at fans, dude. Period. My thing is, stop yelling after last year. Like, stop yelling at fans, dude. This isn't that hard. You're the head coach of the Eagles. Don't even pay attention to them. Okay, how about this? In your history of watching football, all the other teams, how many coaches?
I agree.
How many?
I don't know of any.
0?
I don't know of any.
Like, maybe it's happened. I'm sure at some point a coach.
I don't know of any. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And this guy has done it so many times, and then he does it with his home crowd. Like, that's a problem for me.
Yes.
It's how like, again, is he a moron? Like, I don't think he is, but I'm saying that makes me think, like, wow, this guy is really dumb, or this guy is really, like, unable to control his emotions to the point that he let this happen again. They could be, other than yelling about his family or his kids, there is nothing that those fans could say to him that should make him respond.
I agree. I 100% agree.
I don't understand why you're still talking about it.
Because what I'm saying is, like, there's 2 ways to look at this, and like, there's 2 levels to discussing this. One is, should he have done it? And we are all universally agreed he should not have done it. Me and you agree with it. Everyone agrees with it. The next thing is this like a big picture problem, right? Like, is this like, this guy is out of control. He can't control his emotions. He's like not a good leader. That's where it sounds like, I know I deviate from a lot of the fans. I don't know where you completely.
I mean, I think it's definitely, again, I don't know. I'm not going to make all kinds of sweeping assumptions off of it. All I'm going to say is the fact that it happened is I'm not talking about moving forward. I'm not talking about, but I'm talking about as a coach, as a person, as a whatever. Like, it is a red flag to me that Nick Sirianni in that situation could not control himself. That's a red flag. That's all I'm saying.
So the next part of this too is like how we feel about it and him yelling at fans, and then how the people in the building feel about it. Like that is
Players and people in the building are different. I guarantee you, Jeffrey Lurie and Harry Roseman don't like.
Well, for sure, considering the reaction to it, right? Like, definitely don't
look.
Like.
All right, so let's get to the players thing. Like the players told him to be Nick and all that, and that's fine. But that means showing some fire and stuff. Like that doesn't mean yelling at fans. Like he apologized. He knows it was wrong. He was told it was wrong.
We agree. Shouldn't have done
so
it.
I just don't. I don't.
I'm
Think
not
there's
pushing.
any. Okay.
I'm not pushing back. But I guess what I'm saying is, it doesn't make me feel like he is incapable of doing the job.
I don't think not incapable, but again, it's all about like red flags along the way where it's like, oh, that's concerning. This is concerning that he couldn't control himself in this situation. Honestly, like I don't know. I mean, you have to admit it's a little.
I've admitted a ton. But
so then there's really nothing else to talk about with it. Like it's a concerning thing that he shouldn't have done, and maybe it was just a mistake, or maybe it's that this guy doesn't have the ability to control his emotions. We'll probably find out as the season goes on. But I certainly look at that and say, like, it makes me question Nick.
And look, I don't completely disagree with that. I don't. Like, now the next part of it is like, how do the players feel about it? And how much does it matter how the players feel?
So here's the other thing with the player. We had a great call. It was funny. Chuck and the call right after, Dan in Philly, said he had a great line where he was like, the whole thing with Nick is like, what does he do? What does he do? Right? Like that was the narrative and all that. He's like, right now, it feels like the only thing that Nick is doing is being a distraction.
I agree with that.
Because everything's about Nick. And that's a really good point.
But part of the issue, so I agree with these last 48 hours because Nick brought it on himself. Yeah, right? 100%. It being about Nick all year, I personally think is a bit of deflecting from other issues. Like Nick is the punching bag for the team, right? And we've been
gone through it. I think both Jalen and Nick, and there's playing to go around.
But I mean, like we have seen in Philly sports when we as both media and a fan base decide somebody is a problem, like it is really hard to get off of that. I was talking to someone last night about this. Like, I really think the only way Nick can like save his reputation in the city, and I don't even think this is a stretch. Like, you almost have to win a Super Bowl. Like, I think they could get to the NFC Championship game, and if they lost in a way where it felt like Nick was to blame, like that's it, right? Like this city is done with Nick. Done.
And it's his own doing.
It's his own doing in the past 48 hours, for sure.
But also but again, the past 48 hours is not a localized in a vacuum incident. The reason this is upsetting is because we've seen this stuff before. This is Nick's doing it again. That's the problem. If this were the first time he ever yelled at the fans, it wouldn't be as big a deal.
It's the first time. I think there's
an
important distinction between Eagles fans. I just do. I mean, look, in Indianapolis, he's yelling like.
I get it. I just think in general, but
he's an emotional guy. Like he needs to stop. I agree with you 100% on that. He has to stop doing it. I just think we're like, and again, this is why like it's upsetting he did it. Is because it continues to paint him in a light that I don't think is who he is. Like he is to an extent, but like players love him, man. He wins all the time. Like I don't know. This idea that he can't be a good head coach, I just don't think it's true. Like he is a good head coach. Like the records speak for itself.
I mean, again, I think he's had good moments as head coach, but I think that like, again, I have gone down in my belief in him. Like that's the point.
He's lost my mom.
He's lost a lot of people.
No,
I think you have to acknowledge that.
I did acknowledge it.
And again,
done with him.
To the point of the last essentially football season of games we've seen them play 15, 14, whatever it is.
They haven't looked good
in any of them.
But see, that is
like they have yet to win a game where we're like, wow.
And that is, I think, to me, a more fair criticism, right?
But it's all part of it. The point is, if Nick were like this and they're winning in 2022, it's okay. We can move forward. But it's part of the whole thing.
But then why don't we just acknowledge that we're upset that they're not playing well?
Well, because it's part of, but because people don't like the way Nick acts.
But you just said in 2022,
I said that people can look past. No, people can look past it. Winning.
Not you, but I'm saying I remember that video.
But there are a lot of people who hated it. I was never a problem with it. No,
but locally he was
there were a lot of no. I mean, DeCamera's he at the moment. The very first time he did it, DeCamera hated it. Talked around the air, and we had calls that hated it too. There are a lot of people like Richie hates it. Like there are a lot of people who don't like it. Like we were okay with it, but I think especially as you get to older football fans, people who come from a different era, like they don't like it, like at all. Like so. And I get it, but at the same time, like to the point we made before, he's the only one doing it.
Right.
Like this is not something. It's like, oh well, look, he does it. No, I agree. Just a Nick thing.
I agree.
All right.
It is a weakness in his coaching.
Yeah,
That he
and
that he
again,
felt
I
that.
also think just as a to the point I made after the post game thing, like when is this team ready to play? When does this team show up, hit the field running, and kick ass? Never. So
I
like
agree with
that's
that.
on Nick.
I
Like
agree with that.
like whatever. Let's get to the press conference stuff
All right.
because I think that was a disaster,
So,
honestly. And
let me give you my just experience of
let's
being
start.
in the room.
Okay, good. Do you want to start with the kids or the answers in general?
Let's just talk in general.
Okay.
All right,
Well, I think we should do the kids as its own thing.
Yes,
too.
yes, agreed.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So, as someone that was at the press conference, right? Like, it was like being in a different world.
Mhm.
Like, it was funny. So I do the post game pod with you. Like, obviously, I'm checking Twitter to see the reaction. I know people are really mad. People are texting the video of him yelling at the fans. Right? He comes into the press conference, and I mean, I don't want to use the word delusional because I do think it is truly how he felt. I truly think the feeling
You just didn't read the room at all, is the point.
I don't think he was aware of the room. Like, like I don't know if the team was fully aware of how ugly it was online in the reaction. So
Which, I mean, they need to do a better job of the PR staff, all that. Like, you got to let Nick know what he's walking into.
yeah, like I think the thing I thought leaving that press conference was like Nick is unaware of what the outside world is saying about him. Because at the podium, at the press, remove the kids from it. And I know the kids are kind of part of it. It was celebratory. Like the tone of the press conference
in Nick's eyes
was exactly right. Nick got up there and I think he was feeling we won the game.
It's a little tone deaf too, though.
No, I agree.
I mean, come on, man. Like,
right.
no better. Like, I know that you won it and it's hard to win a football game, and that is true. But and you celebrate the wins. And I know he said on our show today, he's like, I've learned if you don't celebrate,
and I thought that was a good point by him.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But you also have to understand that how you feel isn't how the fan base feels. And you have to understand that, again, we go back to the thing that you're the face of a multi-billion-dollar organization franchise. Like you have to be aware and match your fans where their messaging is an important part of being an organization. You have to message correctly.
Right. So all right. I mean, there's just so many things to talk about this, but like, I do think, and to be clear, I'm not lumping together because Jalen did a good job being emotional while controlling his.
I thought Jalen was great about it. Yeah.
Right. Well, the answer, but also I do think Jalen during the game.
On the games, he did the kid and play thing. The kid and play was so much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to the 90s kids.
So I do think Jalen and Nick, in my opinion, correctly identified this team needed like a pick-me-up because it has been an ugly start to the season. It was ugly last year. And I just think Jalen did a better job.
I think Jalen hit the mark.
Yes,
Nick
exactly.
Didn't. Nick.
So I think Nick went.
Nick needed my energy. They need my energy.
So I think it
sounded so ridiculous. I misplaced my energy. Like, listen, I'm a high energy guy too. It doesn't mean I'm going to come in and be a psychopath.
But all right, I don't think he was a psychopath.
No,
I know, but I know you are. But I think I think Nick went to the podium thinking this team needs like to feel some joy, right? And so, all right. Sorry, you're throwing me off by holding. Like, I'll finish my thought. No, I know.
I can leave it down.
I just have so many different thoughts. It's hard to know.
We're gonna get there. Don't worry.
Like, I think when I left the press conference, my reaction was this dude, and I almost felt happy for him. Was like unaware.
You were happy he's living in his own little
right.
world.
Like, I'm happy you were able to be in this world right now.
I'm less happy for you when you find out
because
the world
like, and when he talked on Monday, I saw this is the funniest quote to me. I think it's honestly maybe the tweet of the year. The picture of him with his head shaved.
Oh, it's so good. You
said
this,
it's like I use my energy in the game in a wrong way, and someone's like, "This sounds like someone that was arrested and has to do 100 like for like a fan that
hours
like hit someone or threw a beer on the field, and it's like I shouldn't have done it." Like his wife's yelling at him, or like, and that was honestly on Monday. His energy was completely like a neutered. Like,
it was. It felt
but I don't want Nick to be that either. So there has to be a middle ground, but I don't know. It's just to me the biggest shame in all of this. And I will die on this hill, is Eagles fans will never have a head coach that is more like them and cares in the same way they do. Not, I know exactly the same, but cares in a similar way than Nick. They just won't. Like, if they fire Nick and they hire Bill Belichick, maybe they'll be a better team. I don't think so, but maybe. But there has to be some level of like, cut the dude a break that this is coming from caring.
I get it. Look, again, I'm emotional. I understand Nick.
It's not mean-spirited.
I know it's not. But it's like, it is what it is, man. Like, you've got to match the way people feel. Like, you've got to understand the way your fans
feel.
Your
opinion on this. Like, there has to also be a level of like, yes, you have to match. You have to being a front-facing part and matching the fans' energy is important, and having a good relationship with the fans is important. But there also has to be a level of, like, not just succumbing to the fact people are mad.
No, I agree, but again, it's one thing. I mean, they did barely beat the worst team in football. Like, he shouldn't have been as happy as he was, even regardless of the fan base. Like, that was not a win to come in and puff your chest out with. That's a win to come in and be like, honestly, that's a win where you should have acted like they acted last year. Jalen coming in and being like, yeah, we won, but we didn't play good enough. That's what that win was. That matched it.
But I don't know if that is the way. Like, it is if you want people to be mad.
No, but I think you have to, and you have to keep it real, man. You sound ridiculous.
But there's a
like,
difference.
Ass today.
There's a difference.
We beat up on the Browns.
Well, they didn't
barely beat them.
They didn't say.
No, but that's what his bravado says.
But I think there has to be some give from people of saying, like, this team can't come to the podium and be like, man, that sucked. Like, there has to be.
But he came in and brought his kids and did like they just won the freaking Super Bowl. Like, it's crazy.
Right, well, let's get into the kids.
Kids thing coming up real quick. Speaking of quick, Mike Quick, Seth Joyner, Jody Mack, Rob Ellis, Joe Conklin, and us, Eliot, Shorr-Parks, James Seltzer. We are the Bet Parks lineup. Bet Parks, the official sportsbook and online casino of the Go Birds Pod. It's the only sportsbook we use, the only one we recommend, the only one we care about. It's the best. We got a Birds game up in New York. Last I looked, they were a 4-point favorite in New York. We'll check the lines. We got the Bet Parks Picks pod coming out later in the week. We'll see where that goes. I would be shocked if that doesn't move towards New York more.
Oh, really? I think it'll stay the same.
I think it ends up around 3 if I had to bet. I think people look. I think it probably should be 3 on the road. And I mean, when does this team beat anyone by more than 3? I
think they'll cover. That's my initial.
I might pick them. I don't know yet. I mean, I picked them last week and it screwed me. So we'll see.
Well, we picked them to win but not cover. So we were correct.
You picked them to win, not cover. I picked them to cover.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I don't know if we'll do that again. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I surprised that they're by 4. We'll see how that shakes out. Either way, you can bet on all the games on Sunday. Bet more than the score. Bet player TDs, rushing, passing yards, interceptions, sacks, all the good stuff. Plus, get this, in addition to all the sports you can bet on, it's way more fun to bet on sports when you're watching them. Just bet on them. Action. It's so much fun. But in addition, you can play live casino games on your phone while you're watching sports, live dealer blackjack, craps, roulette, and so much more. You've got a casino right in the palm of your hand. It is so much fun. Here's a great deal for you. Download the Bet Parks app right now. Enjoy all the excitement of a casino at your fingertips. And here's the deal. Listen to this. If you sign up right now, new users download the Bet Parks online casino and sportsbook app. Get up to $1,000. Yes, $1,000 in casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagered. See betparks.com for the details. You must be 21 in PA, New Jersey, Michigan, Maryland, Ohio. Gambling problem?
So we talk often about how the value of having good windows is keeping air in your house.
You're damn right.
You save the money on, if you're paying for the heat, the windows help that money. You save more money because you're not letting heat out. You want to keep the cool AC in. If you have good windows, that's a benefit of it. But I was thinking about this last night. Another benefit of good windows is sometimes it's nice to let the air in. It's been cool outside recently.
It has.
And last night we had the window open in our bedroom, felt the cool air. It feels like 47 outside. You know what's nice about the windows? I opened them. They stayed open. They didn't creak. They didn't fall down. I didn't have to prop them up. They just worked. And you don't really know the value of a good window just working until it doesn't work.
That's a good way to put it.
If your windows are not working, I'm sure it is a constant thing that is like, let's put the window up. Okay, let me get the little piece of wood to prop it up. Like, why is the AC bill so high? Oh, yeah, that's right. The window like keeps falling open when we're out of the house. And if you want to fix your problem with windows, you know this. People have told us this. They're saving money. They're buying 21 windows. They're getting jerseys. Window Nation is the only place to go get your windows. They've been a friend of the pod for over a year now, I'm pretty sure, which is wild because we've gotten so many stories.
I know.
Here,
I know. We just heard from our girl, Allie, 21 windows from Window Nation. Had an unbelievable experience. Shout out to Allie.
And the reason we get all these stories because they have amazing deals. You buy the windows, buy 2, you get 2 free. There's no limit how you can buy it.
Amazing.
I wonder how the 21 works.
I feel like you're underselling, saying it's an amazing deal. It is an unbelievable deal that doesn't seem real. Yes.
Like, if you have to buy windows, they could legit just be like, nah, you have to pay for all of them. What are you going to do?
You need the windows.
I only have windows in half my house. Yeah. So, like, really good deal. Whenever you buy, there's always good deals with financing. No payments for 24 months, no interest, all those good things. You have to call them and get their latest deals because while they have that core of like helping you make it affordable, they do change things and giving new deals, new specials, all those things. The important thing is if you need new windows, you have to call Window Nation. We trust them. We hear good stories about them, and they'll help your house, which is always the best thing to invest in. So schedule a fast in-home estimate right now at 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. And as always, don't tell them Nick Sirianni sent you.
No, that won't
be
go
mad
well.
about
Tell him
that.
Go Birds sent you.
Tell him Go Birds.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. All right, let's get to it. The kids of it all.
I know.
Look, I know where you stand. I am generally not as upset about the kids at a podium as other people are. I understand why reporters get upset. Like it does. Like I can understand that if you're in that room and you want to ask a really tough question to Nick Sirianni, I might be less inclined to ask it if his kids are on the podium with him. I just would.
I don't agree with that.
How? Like, what are you
Because
talking about?
I've been at press conferences with the kids there. They ask all the same questions.
I don't know, but you don't
Now
know
you
that.
can argue Nick answers them
Hold up.
differently.
How do you know that?
You're right. I don't know for
Yeah,
sure. But
because
do
I know that if I were in that room and I had to ask a tough question to Nick and his 6-year-old and his 3-year-old and his whatever are sitting there like, hey, Nick, do you think you should be worried about your job? Like, I'm not going to ask that question if his kids are sitting there. Like, I'm just not. Though, so, like, I get it, but, like, it is a factual thing. Well, you don't know.
You don't know either.
I don't either, but the point is that it definitely sets up a situation where you might get asked different questions because your kids are there. That's first and foremost.
I just disagree. I'm sorry. I was there. Like he was asked about yelling at the fans. He was asked about not playing well enough. He was asked about the slow starts on offense. Like what question other than should you be
You
fired?
don't know. Like you don't know what questions people will or won't ask when the kids are there. Like period.
But
I'm saying
he was asked all the hard questions.
No,
again,
like you don't know that he was asked all
what
that.
hard question wasn't he asked?
What about his jobs? I mean, there's a million things
That's
that could
the
be
only
asked.
one.
But again, the point is
right.
it is we're talking about things in a general sense where it's like it is rude. The reporters are there doing their job. Like you were there to do your job. Listen, I would love to bring Zoe with me to work. You know what she wants to do? Talking to microphones. Any second she gets, she talks into fake microphones all the time. I would love to do that. That would be so cool.
Right.
I never want to be away from if I could spend 24 hours a day with my daughter, I would because she's my favorite thing on the planet.
Right.
You know what I can't do? I can't bring her to freaking work with me because that's not how the world works. Like we are grown ass men at work doing a job. And again, I don't get as upset about it as others do. Like if they had beaten the Browns by 50 yesterday, sure. You know what? Bring your kids out. That's fine. This is a spot where, again, and maybe Nick is, again, blind enough or not informed enough or whatever to not know how everyone felt about that game, even though I don't know if I believe that considering people were chanting Fire Nick during the game and people were chanting all this stuff. So it's like hard to know that
he was aware that people were.
You had to know that people were not. And it's like a, man, like it's not the time or the place to bring your kids to a press conference. Like again, and I am someone who in general, overall, like it's not like there are people who hate it. Like DeCamera, Richie, like
I know
they hate it. Right. Like they don't, DeCamera didn't even like it in the playoffs. He's like, fine, I guess if you win the Super Bowl, bring your kids out. Like he hates it. And there are a lot of people who feel that way. Like you are in the minority when it comes to this.
I know.
And I am much closer to you. I generally am like, come on. Like, I think we're making too big a deal out of this. In this situation, like, that was not okay that he brought his kids out in that spot. Like, it just wasn't.
I just don't agree. I think that, so, all right, Nick's talked about it, I guess really only on your show.
Only on our show. And he said, it's important to my family. Bring it out. It's like, are you kidding? My daughter wants to come to work with me. Guess what? You can't.
Right, but hold on.
Like, no. What do you mean, hold on? No, but seriously, though, like, do you think that he should be allowed?
Dude, like, people bring their kids to work all the time, just to be clear. They like, this is not some new concept.
Dude, bro, they do not, like, if it's a public job where there are people listening to you and watching you or whatever, fans tuning in, reporters there asking you questions and stuff, like, no, they don't do that. I would never bring my kid ever in a million years.
But I think it'd be okay if you did.
I won the freaking Super Bowl.
I think it would be, if, like,
it's not okay.
I don't want to personalize.
But again, hold on. You say it that way. You are in, like, there's probably 1% of people who think it's okay.
But that doesn't change my opinion. Like, I understand him in the minority. I get it. That doesn't change how I feel. I am okay with him bringing his kids to the press conference. If he wants to bring them, fine. I'm okay with it. I don't think he's using it as a shield. He's done it before. He preaches about family all the time. If his kids, well, hold on, let me finish. If his kids love going to that podium, right? Like, we don't know. Like, if we're gonna like get into the whole like parenting aspect of it. If his kids are like, we love going to the podium, we want to do it so bad, right? And like, he doesn't bring them during the week. He brought him up one time all season. He talks to the media 5 times a week. Like, I just can't, like, what are we getting so worked up about here?
Because it's unprofessional.
It's not unprofessional.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
Stop. It's inarguably unprofessional.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right, well, then we have nothing to talk about because
No, well,
like
it's
unprofessional. Everyone else in that
Other
room,
people
except
do
for
it.
you, thought it was unprofessional. Every reporter in that room.
But had they won, people would have been okay with it. So,
they did win. You
sorry,
mean, yeah,
right, wow.
that's the
If
point.
people were happy.
But again, and I don't even think then the reporters wouldn't like it either way. You know that you're in that room with them. They would.
Look,
but again, I would be fine with it if they won by a bunch. Again, yes, I would be fine with a lot of stuff Nick did if they won. It's all about reading the room, man. It's all about situation. It's about understanding the situation that you're in, that your team is in, that your fan base is in, and acting appropriately.
Yes.
So I just don't understand it's possible to defend it.
Because I don't care that he brought his kids up. I don't think it impacted the questions, in my opinion. I don't think so. I don't think he used them as a shield. He's brought them up to press conferences before, right? And honestly, I like that he doubled down on it. I like that
I thought it was, I honestly think it's one of the worst answers he's ever given.
I just
saying like, I'm going to do it Joe said to him, so what you're saying is, even though you know it angers a lot of people, you're going to do it. And he's like, yeah.
And
I thought that was insanity. Like,
dude, if he wants to do it for his
he's not going to be the coach here that long anyway, so it doesn't matter. This feels like a death march. Is what it feels like.
The kids thing is a perfect example of how this is just over for now.
No, again, I think I think the kids thing, I think people in this situation with this game in that spot, I think people would be mad about it if it was anyone. I think there's anyone on the planet who does that. People be like, this is not the time or the place.
What if Brandon Graham brought his kids?
He's not a head coach.
I
think there's a completely different thing for players and head coach. It is a head coach. You are the head coach of the football team. Different standard. It's a different standard.
I think that he was tone deaf at the press conference how mad people were. I also think there's an element of like not going up there with your tail tucked between your legs when like you just won a game.
Just don't bring your kids out.
But like, again, it's a personal preference thing.
I am again someone who is. I think there's a situation in a place where bringing your kids out is fine. I thought he was so far off from it. Like, so again, I didn't complain last time he did it. This time,
right? That's
because they won a playoff game. He just won like the NFC Championship game.
This is what I don't get. Like the camera, like, so are we gonna set like if you win by 17, then you can bring?
No, honestly,
if
it were me, I wouldn't do it to the playoffs. I think it's like, bro, like
that's so silly. If his kids like to go to the podium, why does it matter?
Because it's kids don't get to choose.
I know they don't. But he's not out there.
Everyone's kids would love to go to the. Right. How many reporters' kids would love to go and sit and ask questions?
And you know what?
How many reporters' kids would love to go sit in the press box and watch an Eagles game? Seriously though,
hold on. Like if a reporter wanted to bring his kid to a press conference, I'd be okay with that. And I think the Eagles would be okay with it.
But you know what?
I think
they wouldn't. They never would because it's professional.
But what if their kid is saying, "Can I please come? Come on, I really want to go up." Like
they would say no. Zoe's asked me to come and just to work so many times.
But it'd be okay if you brought her.
No, it's not. It's not
if you brought her,
man. Here's the thing. Just because you think it's appropriate.
Well, yes, it's my opinion.
Right. I get that.
Yes.
I get that. I'm saying you're allowed your opinion, but it's about what everyone else thinks in that situation. And if the vast majority of people in that room think it is inappropriate that you're doing it, then maybe you should reassess and reevaluate what you're doing. I
agree that there are instances where you have to concede to the public on what they want. I agree with that. But let's not act.
I'm not even talking about the public. I'm talking about the reporters in that room who are doing a job. I'm talking about other people there are doing a job. But again, I don't care what we think about whether they like it or not. Like, it is professional courtesy that if they're bothered by that you shouldn't do it. Like, it is, though. Again, you don't have to bring your kids to the podium. There's not like, I just think it's so insane. Like, his kids get to do whatever the hell they want.
No, but that's not what's happening. It's not that his kids could do whatever the hell they want.
It's because his kids want to go on the podium. They can go on the podium. That's asinine.
So
can his kids go on the sideline with him and coach the game if they want to too?
I think there's a slight difference.
But again, like but that's his job.
How many games does he coach?
Hold up, real quick. Okay. Part of his job as the head coach of the Eagles is these press conferences, right? It's like in his contract. Yes. It's in the NFL laws. It's part of his job.
Yep.
So like, it's not that different if he's saying, I'm not going to bring my kids here or there, whatever. Like, this is all part of your job.
Right.
You're doing work.
Right.
Like, you don't bring your kids out and be like, hey, ask me questions with my kids.
Other people.
And then he's asking the kids questions, which made it that much worse. Did you think it was loud in there? Someone say, I think it was awkward. It was uncomfortable to be a part of.
I agree with the including the kids thing in terms of asking them, right? I just like, if his kids wants to go up there, I don't think it's a big deal. But again, like, I understand people are upset.
Yeah, and again,
I'm gonna win.
Yeah,
but other coaches do it. It is
not really, not that often.
Kids have been at the podium.
They have usually in
And Nick's
big
been a head coach
playoff,
for what?
big playoff
55
wins,
games or whatever.
big playoff wins or whatever.
Right.
You'll see it, but you never
But
see it in the regular season.
Nick's whole
So
thing.
is other. You don't think there are other coaches whose whole thing is family?
I agree with that, but I'm just saying, like
everyone's whole thing is family.
I agree with that.
There's nothing more important to me than my wife and my kid. That's it.
Yes, but I think but I wouldn't have an issue with anybody. I'm not saying it's like a Nick thing, but I am saying that.
But you can acknowledge that if it is something that the vast majority of people think is a problem, and not just like, oh, I don't like it, like think is a problem. Like it would be smart for Nick Sirianni not to do it. Whatever he wants to do, like, hey man, you know what? Maybe for you, for your career, it would be smart not to do this.
I agree with that. I agree that like it has gotten so bad with Nick that like, yes, right. But I just honestly do respect a little bit of being like, you know what? If I think it's good for my kids and I want to do it, then I'm going to do it. I do respect.
And I get it. I just think it's a very selfish way to look at things. Like it's very like what my kids want.
Yes.
What my kids want goes above what everyone else in this room wants, what fans want. But when I'm the head coach of everyone's hopes and dreams, that this millions of people live and die, their whole week is made or ruined by what happens in a game, and then what I say about it matters.
It does.
Matters.
And
like
for
so
90
so at a certain point you have to step back and say, you know what? Like what I might want or what my kids might want isn't as important as what millions of people want when I get paid millions of dollars to do this.
But his kids are not like constantly around. It is 1%.
I get it. But again, it is what it is. He brought him out for that press conference. Like, he has to freaking get crushed for it. In my opinion.
I don't think he does.
Well,
he doesn't have to get crushed.
I think
like, people are, look, here's the bottom line. And we said this after the Buccaneers playoff game. It just would have been easier to fire him because people are
They definitely should have fired him.
Nick is getting so little like rope with this city.
I also just don't think at this point, like, what is he doing to help the team? To that caller, Dan and Philly's point right now, like the biggest thing that Nick is doing is being a distraction. Like that's all he's doing right now to help this team.
From this.
Well, all of it. Like the offense looks like crap. Like they're still doing the same
because
things.
The quarterback is like not in this game, but like this is the other thing too. It's like, well, it doesn't look like a Kellen Moore offense. Well, yeah,
it doesn't
because it's Jalen. Like they run the offense for Jalen. It looks like a Jalen Hurts offense. That's honestly probably how we need to start categorizing it. It does. I don't know what you're going to say. Like, do you think it looks like it did last year?
Oh, I think Hurts is a big part of it. Yeah, but again,
is the part.
I think he's probably the biggest part. But again, what is Nick doing to make this team better right now? What has he done?
Well, all right. So, I mean, the players really like him, which matters. Let me finish. How many players have to say that he runs great meetings? He holds everybody accountable. Like, there are things he is doing. They're just, I mean, how's he winning all the time if like he's some horrendous head coach that doesn't help?
Again, I don't think he's horrendous. I just think that he is causing more problems than he's
right now.
Right now, that's my point. I'm talking about right now. I'm not talking about the past.
But he hasn't been the biggest distraction all season.
I don't care about the past. We're talking about right now.
Yes, right now
he's causing problems.
I agree with that. And that's why the first thing I said was he shouldn't.
And again, we talked about it going back to the initial thing, and we'll get to final thoughts. But the initial thing we talked about after that game, without knowing all this stuff, we watched that game and said Nick deserves to be crushed for this. They came out of the bye. It looks exactly the same.
Agree.
So, like, on a basic level, like, forgetting all the other stuff, which is causing all kinds of issues and a distraction, he's doing a bad job on the field.
Look, I hope they just fire him for everybody's sanity. So we can just move on from this, right? I hope for Nick's, like, personal health, like, they just get rid of him. I hope so that, like, that's what I would pick. Fire Nick because this is too ugly and not fun to talk about. But they're probably not going to. So, like, the kids will be at the podium again.
Oh, he's definitely not getting fired in season, I don't think. Like, unless they lose like 4 or 5
unless
straight.
He fans again. Like,
you know what? He might, because it seems like he can't control himself.
Yeah.
You're a grown man. Like, control yourself a little bit.
I agree. He shouldn't have done it. I 100% agree with you.
All right.
Should not have done it.
Let's get to final thoughts.
Okay. I think that all concerts should put the lyrics to the songs on the screen. I think it'd be fun. What if you're at a concert, you don't know the words, you want to sing along?
No.
I think it'd be fun.
Nope.
I was at the Sabrina Carpenter concert. She had the lyrics up for one song that I didn't know. It was fun. I knew what they were. I understood all the lyrics. Like, I'm not saying it has to be like huge for everybody, but I think it'd be a nice twist if at concerts they put this so everyone could sing along.
I just never want your concert takes anymore at any point.
I think it'd be fun. You could sing along.
Go buy a CD and have the little CD booklet that had them.
I also think CDs should still continue. I do like to now. that Apple does it, and I like they do it for podcasts too, where you can read it.
The words, yes.
Yeah, it's very convenient.
That I agree with.
That's a great
That's a great
I
thing.
think it'd be fun if I'm at a concert where
So
I don't know the words that I can sing along.
yeah, no one needs you singing along, buddy.
Well, I think until you're singing,
yeah.
it's fun.
Am I not mistaken, or was there not a final thought?
I don't want the singer not to sing.
That's as long as you're singing with them, it's fine. You're like, I don't want to hear the audience.
Fine. But if there's a huge lyric everyone loves, like I want him to. No. I'm saying I want everybody.
You want him
involved.
and you to sing
yes,
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't want the singer, like if it's the most famous line of a song, to be like, and everybody, and then he doesn't sing. Everyone has to sing, including him.
So, yeah. We'll just move on. I will say though, I don't know if it's just Apple TV or whatever, but that's what I use. But they have this thing now where if you rewind, hit the 10-second back or whatever, it'll put the subtitles on when you're watching something. It's like the greatest invention of all time. Like if you miss something, you go back and put the subtitles on.
Yeah.
For like those 10 seconds. Genius. Like an absolute genius, man.
Look,
I
this
can't.
Is my concert thing. Like it's just it's
very
better.
Different.
It's better when you can read.
It's because I missed something. And if you're at a concert, and you missed the words and could rewind it live.
No, but you can at least follow along.
Yeah, I don't need to follow along. I'm just gonna listen to music and dance, and it'll be just fine.
Right. Great.
All right. So I'm gonna guess you say yes to this because we had a little moment before we started.
Right.
I guess we were on live. It won't be on the podcast, but the YouTube people see it. Where you're like, we went live. It's like, oh, and just like that, and you're like, Sex in the City.
Yeah.
So my final thought was gonna be, do you have? And obviously, I'm assuming you things where like, if a phrase or a word is said, you immediately have to either say the following thing or say like, so for example. Like the phrase, like the song "Psycho Killer." Do you know the song "Psycho Killer" by Talking Heads?
Not off the top of my head. I mean,
great song.
I recognize
"Psycho Killer," qu'est-ce que c'est?
Right.
Anyway, like whenever the phrase "it'll all work out," Emily and I go, "I'm just a little freaked out." It's not "Psycho Killer." It's actually "Cities." Right. It's another Talking Heads song. Excuse me. But we'll just go, "It'll all work out," and I'll be like, "I'm a little freaked out." We have to say it. Or like Bob's Burgers, Tina, the character, whenever she'll like fall or wherever she'll go, "I'm okay." It's like whenever Zoe says, "I'm okay," we'll be like, "I'm okay." Like do you have like phrases or things from shows and movies, or like that if someone says a word, you have to say it, or you have to repeat the phrase in that voice?
I'm sure I do, but I can't think of
because I have like thousands of them.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
I do this nonstop.
A lot of them are probably honestly tied to commercial jingles because they're in my head, and so like, or even song lyrics too. To your point,
song lyrics, yes.
I don't know as much expressions, but maybe, yeah. I think more so expressions, like I notice them, like you said in Just Like That, like it instantly in my head, like
it makes you think of Sex in the City.
But I'm sure there are some from a commercial perspective where, like, if Kristen says a certain thing, I'm like, like,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I can't think of any.
Yeah, I have so many.
But I'm sure I do.
That was 2 of thousands.
Yeah. Well, look, commercial jingles are very, very catchy.
Big fan of commercial
As
jingles.
You know, I think they should be allowed to win awards.
I know. Yeah.
The Grammys, right? I think they should be able to win a Grammy.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why not?
That's a better take than your concert take. I'll give you that.
All right. Next time you're at a concert and you don't know the band, I think you would appreciate.
Do you know how many concerts I see? I go to see bands that I don't know.
Right, I think
zero.
kind of fun.
No,
you see the lyrics.
I don't care about the lyrics.
It doesn't have to be like huge.
I don't even care about the lyrics. Just make me dance. Give me space.
Right.
I don't even look at the stage half the time, like I told you. So,
well, it's about the broader audience.
Yeah. I mean, you're the person who wants like a 1-hour concert. So we are very different. Yeah. Like I said, I saw Fish play for 8 straight hours.
Yeah. So. That'd be a lot of lyrics.
Best night ever. All right. We're out of here. Parks Picks Pod later in the week.
Thursday.
We're going to go through every single game on the slate. 1 to 3 Saturday. We'll be around. Daily pod, all that stuff, reacting. I'm sure it'll very relaxing.
Yeah.
Whole week.
Yeah, it's always
just the Giants week. It'll be great.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back on Thursday. Until then, he's on.